Hello and welcome! This is gonna get interesting. Alrighty, welcome to the review of the movie that everybody is talking about at the moment, and I'm talking about Mother, the new film written and directed by Darren Aronofsky, who I think is a brilliant visionary director. He's done amazing films like Black Swan, The Wrestler, which I loved, Requiem for a Dream, which came so close to being in my top 10 movies of all time. I just love that film. I love the darkness that he puts in his films, and my God, nothing has ever come close to this one. So Mother, oh man, how do you categorize this film? I don't even know. It stars Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem. It's also got Ed Harris and Michelle Pfeiffer. If you've seen the trailer, which I thought really mismarketed this film, it looks like a creepy kind of a horror flick about this couple, Lawrence and Bardem, who are living in this house, and all of a sudden all these strangers start appearing, and the house is bleeding in some areas, and weird stuff starts happening that you don't really know what, because the trailer couldn't really tell you what this movie is about. Now I'm going to get into what I think the movie is about, which I'm pretty sure most people are on board with. It's not spoilers, okay? This is stuff that is just readily available on the internet. Now, Javier Bardem is God. Jennifer Lawrence is either Mother Earth or Mother Nature, hence the title of the movie. And this house that they're living in is the world around us. It's the Earth. And this whole film is basically, it's kind of like the history of the world in a way, with a lot of religious overtones and metaphors and allegories, and this is another kind of film you can just take on face value, really. Like, look, I'm not a big art house film lover. I can appreciate that sort of stuff. You know, I know how to read a film, but I like my Hollywood blockbusters. You know, I like my planes and car chases and shootouts and boobs. But at the same time, you know, I can appreciate movies like this. Going into it, I knew that it was going to be this metaphor for something else, and so I was fully prepared to, you know, interpret this film and not just take what it was on the surface. However, many rows behind me in the back of the theater, there were some younger people who were sitting there kind of giggling through the whole thing, and I just knew that they weren't getting it. And that's the thing, a lot of people are gonna go into this film expecting it to be, you know, just like a creepy horror film. And I spoke to one of the attendants at the theater afterwards, and he said so many people are, you know, walking out of this thing at the end just not liking it. I, on the other hand, look, I loved this movie deeply. And look, if you didn't like it, I get it. I totally understand why people aren't going to like this film. I think it's one of these things that the people who did like the film have to understand why people wouldn't like it. On the same side, the people who didn't like the film, they've got to understand why people would like it. So I don't think it's fair to criticize one or the other. Which means you don't go clicking dislike because I like this movie and you didn't. Ah, just kidding. I know you won't. You're good. So the film plays out, so God and Mother Earth are living in this house, which is the world, and Ed Harris turns along, who is essentially Adam. Then a bit later, Michelle Pfeiffer comes along, who is Eve. Now, you know, there's so many little clues as to this. Like at one point you see Ed Harris has this wound on his side, you know, i.e. the removed rib. Then we got like a Cain and Abel story as well, and then, you know, things just start getting darker and darker in this film. Where people just start turning up. All these strangers start turning up for various reasons, which I won't spoil, and they represent humanity. And, you know, the more people that come into this house, i.e. the more the world is populated, like, they just start, you know, trashing and destroying this place and just ripping it apart. And, you know, things happen with Mother Earth herself. There's more stuff involving a baby, which, oh my God, that was some brutally dark stuff there. And, you know, to me this all represented the way that humanity is treating the planet. Darren Aronofsky is an environmental activist, and you can tell from what he was trying to say in this film. But look, you know, the thing is, like I said, you know, I like my blockbusters and stuff like that, but I didn't have to look too deeply into this film to understand what they were getting at. You know, all the clues were there. I mean, at one point, Jennifer Lawrence actually refers to their house as paradise. Javier Bardem refers to her as his goddess. You know, there's so many things. I mean, all the stuff with the baby is just blatantly obvious as to what that represents. So yeah, I didn't have a hard time following it, and you know, this film, oh my god, it got me. It got me so deeply. Not in the feels, but just this movie affected me in my soul. And I'm not kidding, I was sitting there with tears welling up in my eyes at parts of this movie, but you know, it was the sort of thing, it wasn't like there was something on screen that you know why it's making you cry. You know, it's not like E.T. dying or, I don't know, something else that makes you cry. You know, the end of Fast and the Furious 7, you know, Paul Walker rolling up. I don't care, that makes men cry. So it wasn't something that obvious. It was more this movie as it was playing out, and I was watching, you know, the darkness of humanity. It really got me, and I was sitting there just so affected by what I was seeing without even consciously realizing what was going on inside me. And this movie just, it really, yeah, like I said, it affected me. So in terms of everything else, look, this movie was just faultless in my eyes. The cinematography was great. There were a lot of times though where the camera was really close up in people's faces, and it became a little uncomfortable at times. I sort of felt a bit claustrophobic, but then, you know, as you're sort of watching this story progress, you sort of realize that that's what you're meant to be feeling. The picture did look very grainy, but that was attributed to the fact that this film was actually shot on 16mm film, which, yeah, gave it sort of a rawness to it. Yeah, I thought it looked great. The production design was incredible. The costumes were amazing. The color palette, the tone, everything I thought was just on point. There was no score in this film, which was interesting. Apparently, they did make a score, but decided not to use it, and I thought that was a genius move. Because this movie, like everything, the visuals and performances and dialogue was so powerful that it didn't even need music to accentuate all that. So in terms of how to categorize this film, like, you know, a lot of people are being disappointed by the fact that it's being marketed as a horror film, but they're going in and, you know, getting something completely different. But to me, look, I'm going to go against that and say it was a horror film, but just not in the traditional sort of a sense. It wasn't, you know, like there was a, you know, it's not like your Conjurings or anything like that where the house has got a ghost and the walls are bleeding or something weird like that. It was a horror film in the sense that, you know, this movie just shows you, it opens your eyes to the darkness of humanity and just how messed up we are as a race, you know, humans in general. And for what it made me feel, this was definitely to me a horror film of a different kind. But here's the thing, look, and I mean, God, this could be an hour-long review because of how much I could say about this movie. I've only hinted on the surface as to what is going on in this film, and I'm sure there is so much stuff that even I didn't pick up on as much as, you know, I was trying to look into it as deeply as I could, but there's so many other things that I've got to see this movie again. I will definitely be owning it on Blu-ray because, yeah, you know, from time to time, like, I'm such a bright, happy, bubbly person, but from time to time, I like to explore the darkness of humanity in films, and man, this was a perfect way to do it. You know, I mean, I could go on for so long about this film, but that's the thing. This movie, whether you like it or not, it's got people talking. I mean, I could easily sit down and have a conversation with someone for a couple of hours about what we thought of this film or what we saw in it, and I'm really looking forward to you guys dropping comments as to what you thought of it. And yeah, you know, let's talk about this movie because I feel it's a really important piece of cinema. What I saw last night was, it transcended being just a movie. To me, it was a cinematic experience. I felt something so profound, and, you know, even though it was in a, you know, it was kind of a dark, almost nihilistic sort of a fashion, but, you know, the movie got its point across, and it worked a treat on me, and I didn't expect to. You know, kind of thought, oh, I hope this isn't going to be a pretentious artsy wank fest, which a lot of people think it is. And that's, like I said, that's totally fine, because we all look at movies with a different set of eyes, and I'm just lucky enough, I guess, that this movie, it connected with me, and I was able to, you know, interpret what I was seeing into something that made me have a reaction. Yeah, so look, that being said, I loved what this movie did to me. I'm looking forward to taking that ride again, and I'm going to give Mother a 10 out of 10. I seriously did not expect this movie was going to be a 10, and yeah, but I couldn't fault it. You know, and when I was sitting there just being moved so deeply, yeah, I loved it. So, like I said, let's get talking about this movie. If you've seen it, drop me comments. Let me know what you thought. If you haven't seen it and you want to know something about it, go ahead and ask. Or, yeah, I don't know. Let's just talk about Mother. And like I said, look, if you hated the film, don't judge me for liking it, you know, because, yeah, this movie is dividing people. But again, you know, we've all got to understand that neither of us are right or wrong. I mean, you know, we're just all interpreting it how we see it, and that's just how it is. So that being said, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, what are you doing? Go ahead and click subscribe, because I'm always after more subscribers. I love having you people on board. I love having an audience that I can communicate with and talk about movies and stuff, because this is so much fun and I love it, and especially when a movie like this comes along that I can just gush about it and get feedback and have chats and make new friends, and I'm just talking too much right now. So drop me some comments either here or on Facebook. All the social media links are in the description below, because I like to talk about movies and I would love to talk about movies with you. Catch you next time.
Click subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest movie reviews. Skynet will be taking over any day now, so what have you got to lose? Nyah.